2.7. My name is Johnny Hughes. I told you about a conversation we're yet to have with one of the flag bearer hopefuls, a man who wants to lead his country, born on the same day that Ghana gained independence in 1962. The son of a late judge, gruesomely murdered. Said he's forgiven, let everything go, but we should not forget the historical past. He is an engineer, he's a fellow at the Institution of Engineers, actually. He has also been a former press secretary to President John Agyekum Kufuor. He has been very instrumental in the building of the new patriotic party, serving at different stages as campaign manager for the venerable Professor Albert Dubois, also Nana Dodanko Akufo-Addo, who now is President of the Republic. He's had many different positions in the party. He's a grassroots man. He also has interest in sports. And he has fond memories of when he used to organize the boxing bouts at Infanspim and at KNUST. And he's the husband of one of my professors from GIJ. Engineer Kwabena Agyei Agyepong is in studio. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Thank you, Johnny. Very grateful for this opportunity.
A
little clarification. Right. It was rather the current president who was the campaign manager for Professor Dubois.
Right. But you were
a part of the
campaign.
Absolutely. Doing the party political broadcast.
Good to see you.
In 90. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
You're always smiling.
Yes.
What's the secret?
Well, I think a friend medical officer told me that when you smile, you use less muscles in your face. When you frown, you use a lot, maybe three times the amount of muscles you need to use. So it's always important to put a smile on any other person's face. And the way to start is by smiling yourself. I think my day is done when I can put a smile on a fellow Ghanaian's face.
How are the campaigns going?
Well, it's tough. Campaigns are normally tough. The grind of going around the different regions. I've been through the 16 regional capitals. Of course, we have a two-tier electoral process. What we upcoming now in about 3 weeks is the Special Electoral College, which is a very small group of about 900 delegates, made up of the 275 constituency chairmen, the 272 regional executives, the 137, and maybe, I don't know whether they will accept Speaker, Speaker
NPP for Formina
to vote. It becomes 138. The 81 delegates from the diaspora branches. Of course, the 60 regional reps to the National Council. You put all together, and also the surviving founding fathers. And these are the important, courageous people who were able to put in their signature for 110 districts in 1992, the 10 regions, and then the 3 primary officers of the party, the 123. Now, I think a lot of them has passed on. We have about 30 or so who are still alive, who are likely to vote. You put it all together, it's a reasonably small group, but I'm very confident that this is the top of the party. And I have the confidence that they'll take the right decision. If we can't trust them to do that, then we are on a hide into nothing. But I'm very confident that that's going to happen. And I've been around all the 10 regions, 16 regions.
Right.
I'm starting my second round this afternoon.
I see.
With Greater Accra.
Okay.
So I'll be meeting just the super delegates. Some of us are working a very tight budget. So shoestring budget. So we don't have the luxury of meeting thousands of people, but I'm just concentrating this afternoon on the 34 constituency chairmen who are going to vote, the regional reps on the National Council from Greater Accra, the elders who are still alive, who signed, and then the 17 regional executives. So it's a reasonably small group, but I intend to share my message. I normally have what I call a dialogue.
Okay.
And so I just don't go and deliver a lecture, but I make some opening remarks, and then we have a question and answer session.
Right.
If they have any issues, I can debunk or explain or clarify.
Right.
So, and that starts this afternoon, and then hopefully next week I'll be in the Volta region, OT, and then I'll move on gradually because we have very little time.
The last time I had a conversation with you on TV3 New Day,
that's right,
about a year ago, you were very confident of a win. You were very nationalistic, very patriotic. You were talking about the soul of the nation.
That's right.
And you were talking about rallying everybody, to look beyond the party and look at Ghana first, and then you can build the party and get the right leaders in place and all of that. Has anything changed?
Not at all. In fact, it's been strengthened. I've always believed that political parties are tools or instruments to develop our country. They are not an end in itself. And it's about how well we build our country. And so I want Ghanaians to be able to put their hands on their chest. And that spirit of nationalism, patriotism, that anchored the formation of our country at independence, that should be shining through. And it appears if when you take a look at some of the recent surveys that have been conducted by some of the CSOs, that confidence is draining. There's a level of despondency and desperation, and people having lost faith in the political architecture, and it's something that we, the politicians, should do something about. And I do believe, as a young person, I'm not very young, but I look at myself as a bridge between the young and the old.
I was going to ask that question.
Yes.
You just look good.
So we need to bequeath to the younger generation some level of hope and the virtues and the values that anchored this country. And that's why I say my political doctrine has been anchored on what I call the triple S: service, sacrifice, and selflessness. Now, I do believe that all politicians, leaders, should have these character traits and virtues. And we should encourage a lot more good people. I mean, Lee Kuan Yew, who said we should get our best human resources into politics, not to discourage and rather scare them away. What is happening now? We are not careful. The space will be populated by misfits, those who shout loudest and those who insult most, who have most venom in their voices. And that's not what we need in our politics. We need to inspire the younger generation to aspire to be politicians by the way we discourse, by the way we respect ourselves, by the language, the temperate language that we should use. That acerbic tongue is not what is going to drive development in our country. So I'm one person. This campaign, I want to elevate the discourse, bring out the difficult conversations we must have as politicians and as Ghanaians. When I talk about the new dawn and the new direction and new dimension, what I mean is a reorientation of our values as a country. The narrative that has gained currency, which is that you go into politics to make money, that narrative should disappear. And the only people who can make it disappear is we, the politicians.
Nanado said the same thing. He said,
it does not matter.
You're looking forward to making money in my government. Don't come close. Go into the private sector.
I think the media loves
it. It turns out that just
look,
talk.
my name is Kwabena Agyei Agyepong,
right,
and my word is my bond. And I've been in government before. I have a record that you can look at. As press secretary to Kufuor for close to 6 years. I didn't go in there to go and fill myself, to go and build up my real estate. Fortunately for me, as a civil engineering consultant, I built myself a modest place of residence before I became press secretary. So it wasn't attractive for me to come and stay in cantonments or Labonios. I stayed in my own house in East Legon. I still stay there. I'm happy there. I want Ghanaians to have that spirit of contentment. It's the Lord that gives you that. And it's important that the younger generation, when you look at them now, everybody wants to be rich the day before yesterday. It cannot happen that way. I mean, as a young civil engineer doing my national service, I stayed in one room in Jowulu. You understand? In fact, I was sharing with my mate, Johnny Crunchy, who rose to become Deputy Chief Executive of Ghana Highway Authority. One bed here, one bed there. You understand? It takes time. Then you build. That is what we should do.
Where did that insatiable desire for wealth overnight come from?
It's sad. It's a sad reflection on society, because I think there have been one or two bad examples from both political parties, where people have seen young ones who have finished university, have never worked before, have never paid a secretary and run a business before, thrust into political service, And then all of a sudden, we all know what happened. Mansions and showing off in big parties and weddings and that kind of stuff. So every other young person thinks that maybe this is the shortest route. I've seen a very popular quote on social media. Any country that makes politics more lucrative, the industry means you are creating poverty. It's not a sign of success. So these are things as politicians we should talk about. And it's not only about the politicians, it's about the general society, everywhere. Whether you're a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, a policeman, a farmer, you should recognize that you have a role to play to support the development of our country. That is what I represent. I want to be an advocate for propriety.
Why should people trust you?
Well, that's why you should look at my record, because I've had the opportunity to do what others do. I didn't do it.
I know, but you were part of the campaign team that, told us all to believe in the Nana Addo Dankwa and Dr. Bawumia pair.
Johnny,
and also,
I don't know why
you
are obsessed. You are becoming obsessed with the past.
Engineer, hold on. I mean, we learn from the past, and then we can.
It is important.
We retrospect, circumspect, and then introspect.
Yeah.
But you were part of the team that told us, look, believe this pair. Yeah. They're going to do better. They're going to take us to the different level. The narrative we see now is not a different level. And that's why you are preaching that, look, we need a different kind of, paradigm shift and all of that. Then comes the question, why should people trust you?
Well, they should trust me because I've had a record in government. I've had a record of service in this country. In 1992, when it was life-risking to be identified with the NPP under military dictatorship, I was prepared to take a risk. I could have sought political asylum in Britain when my father died. I have siblings who are in Britain today who are British. I chose to stay in Ghana to become a blot on our conscience that such a heinous crime doesn't happen again. So I'm someone who loves to sacrifice. You understand? So they should trust me because my word is my bond. And you saw me as press secretary to the president for close to 6 years. I think nobody has picked a speck of debt on me. By now, you would have had quotations of me in the media if I was a reckless speaker. I was brought up well by my dad and the leaders that I saw at the beginning of this party, very selfless people, those who could sell their property just to support this political tradition. So those values that, in my view, has disappeared in our body politic, that's what I think we should restore. And that's why I'm talking like this. And I do believe a lot of people would understand that because I did not misuse my time in government. I did not add on to my real estate. I did not go chasing after state property and state lands. I detest that. I fought against it when I was in government, and I continue to fight against it. What belongs to all of us should be held in trust for all of us, not appropriated to people with political connections. And it has happened right from Rawlins's time. He, the revolutionary who came with a gun, and punish people for doing much less than what he did. So these are lessons that we can learn from history. I want to talk about the new dawn, the elements of which are very critical, because in my view, I mean, you talk about the economy and things like that. I think economics has two legs. I mean, our friends who are economists, they tend to confuse us with verbiage and words and language we do not understand. But the long and short of it is that what you spend depends on what you earn.
Right.
It's as simple. And if you balance your budget, it means that at least you are spending what you earn. If you are saving, it means that you are spending less than what you earn.
Right.
If you are in deficit, it means you are living beyond your means.
Right.
And that's what I think Ghana has been doing for donkey years. And we should put a stop to that. A time has come for the leaders of our country who have the mandate from the people to go to the people frankly and honestly and say, look, this is what we can get this year. So we may not have many new projects, but we can maintain what we have. Because we lack a culture of maintenance in this country. We are always eager to do something new. And there's always an advantage for some, procurement opportunities for some.
Right.
And so when I talk about cutting waste in the public sector, it's the number 3 on my 6-point plan.
We'll come to your 6-point plan,
Yeah.
and I want the listeners to be refreshed on that. But how are the electorate or the delegates responding to your campaign? You mentioned that you were on a shoelace budget.
That's right. Shoestring.
Yes, shoestring. Yeah. We've seen people, split money here and there. we've seen the monies, and it's been covered by Joseph Armstrong and the rest. 200, 100 people are even making comparisons. So we buy my 100, we buy 50 on my 200.
Well, it depends on the circumstances.
But then,
I'm not saying nobody pays any money.
Right,
I'm not saying I don't even pay any money.
Right.
But of course, I mean, if I go to Kufuridua and I know someone has traveled from Afram Plains to come and listen to me, it's only fair game. Can you take a 200 to subsidize your transport? That is respecting the person. But I'm not talking about the money that would try to buy their conscience. That is different. So these are things that can happen. You understand?
Right.
But it's the context.
How are they receiving your message?
The message is very strong. And again, I've all the reviews I've had in the media everywhere, I've asked my campaign manager to put together how much money we have spent. And I know where I've gotten my sources of funding from.
Right. You want to share?
No. If they give me the authority, some names I can't mention because people will be surprised, But I have.
Why would people be surprised they don't expect that they would support Kwabena Agyepong publicly because there's a regime in place, and if you show your head that you are here, you may be penalized.
There's a certain cloud of fear that I worry about, especially being someone from the liberal Democrat stock. People are not eager. Even me as a political person, activist. There are people who call you, Kwabena, you're being, overly critical. I'm not being critical of my party. I'm sometimes critical of government decisions. It's my party that brought forth to the government, but the party and the government are not the same things. So criticizing government doesn't mean you are disloyal to your party. Because sometimes government actions can damage the chances of the party at winning this elusive third electoral victory. So it is rather the patriots like us who should stand up and say, look, Mr. President, perhaps maybe we should change tack and, introduce A or B into the action so that we enhance our chances of victory. That is constructive criticism, and that should be allowed, So I am someone who believes in speaking up, even if it risks the vote that you will get. Let's have a good conversation in this country, the difficult things that we need to talk about. So the party people, the genuine patriots, they are very happy with what I'm saying, because everything I've said is based on fact. I remember about a year ago when I waded into the public stream and talked about the fact that I think the president should take decisive action on the managers of the economy. At the time, it was only 7 cedis to $1.
I remember that.
It ran through the roof to 16,
right?
Close to 17, and then it's now back down to around 12 or 11.
11.5, 12.
That's right. It's still relatively high. I mean, a country like Ghana, blessed with the resources that we have, we should have a focus. It should never exceed 5.
What do you think is the problem?
The problem is we have been very lax. That's why my thing is number 2 again on my 6-point plan: enforcing law, order, imposing discipline, compliance is important. When I talk about cutting waste, you've seen the recent Auditor General's report.
Right.
15.1 billion. Last year it was 17 something
billion. The previous year 12 billion.
If you put it all together, it's far in excess of the 3 billion that we are lying in front of the IMF looking at. So if we discipline ourselves and we look inside and we attach with it a drastic penalty regime, so that would discourage potential culprits. So those who think that they can tamper with the public treasury know that they have a high penalty to pay. And that should be there. There should be that decisiveness, that political will to punish wrongdoing in society. We are in a country now where we are beginning to accept mediocrity. And in fact, we are accepting wrong to be normal, to the extent that when you are under pressure, you are the one being attacked or persecuted. Once you try to respond, you rather become the devil incarnate. It cannot be possible. Well, I've had instances where we are in a political contest. People can throw shades.
Right.
That's how politics is. You have to throw a punch. Once you throw a punch, you should be prepared to take one in return. So if a candidate goes about telling the electorate that everybody disappeared, we're not courageous to stand in the dock for the NPP, which I know that is not the case. And I come out and say that is not the case. It cannot be the truth. And I'm disappointed that the candidate said that. That cannot be construed to mean mean an attack on the person.
You mean Dr. Baumia?
Yes. You understand? So, but in politics, a few punches have to be thrown. Otherwise, you can't have politics. It adds to the humor and all that. So, I believe that truth should be our mantle.
Would Kwabena Agyepong be a very strict president? That's the concern of many people. That Kwabena Agyepong,
I don't know why people are worried about that.
He should be strict. If he becomes a president, he'll be too strict on us.
I've had people say...
You've heard that?
I've had people say worse things.
Right.
Like, oh, man, did he?
But would you be?
Look, you see, you have to be flexible. We are all human beings, and I'm not an angel. I'm not trying to present myself as an angel. We are all fallible as human beings. But to the best of our ability, let's restore public confidence, reduce government perks, the showing off, you know. And you see, Ghanaians ourselves, we have become a showy people, and you, the media, sometimes you are partly to blame. Oh well, I've played a role in the media in my earlier life, right. You know.
But why is the media to blame?
In today's world, because of the social media and all the things that you see, they cover all these lavish weddings and parties and people's birthdays. They are showcasing their cars. The media even goes into their bedroom to show golden beds. It's very untypical of us Ghanaians. Ghanaians were modest and moderate. We don't show off when you have money. You don't. It's not right. I mean, if you go to the outside world, the Warren Buffetts of the world and the Bill Gates, you know, they give money away. I attended a ceremony in the U.S. quite recently, graduation ceremony, where the guest of honor gave every graduating student $1,000, amounting to about $5 million cash.
Right.
There. Right. And then divided it into two and said, look, I'm giving you this, I'm teaching you something that is good to receive, but is better to give. So I'm giving you 500 as a little buffer as you're going out of school, but another 500 for you to give it to someone you love. It was 2 envelopes, and I learned something from it. And I felt that this is what we should cultivate in our country. Right. If you have that much money to have 60 cars, which you won't use anyway, and you have Ghanaians struggling, maybe you should develop a scholarship system or something to support.
So
your
you'd
community.
have wished that Cecilia Dapa's $1 million would have been to her neighbors in Abeleng, Bejo, Ulu, Tesano, and all those places.
That is cornering me, yeah.
I'm not cornering you.
She's a very close
You're my
friend
big
of mine.
brother.
She's like a big sister.
You're a
to
big
me.
brother. How can
I've known her
you?
very well. But in politics, we have to say what is right and do the right thing. I think my disappointment or what I felt was a downside was the fact that there was so much money in a household. Because as government and as public officials, one of our first actions and our focus has been to formalize the economy, to encourage people to have a savings culture. Because even if you don't have use for your money, other people will have use for their money. Right. So if it is part of the banking system, that is crucial. So the work of government, and it took us a long time because after Rawlings took away people's 50,000 in this country, many people were hiding monies under their beds. It took a long time, Kufuor's time, to build confidence for people to go back to the banks. So it's a bit worrying. I mean, that was my disappointment, that there should be that kind of money in a household, and we should encourage everybody. We cannot, as political leaders, preach one thing and practice the other. But I think the media has taken it on a whole rigmarole, and I was also surprised that the Attorney General waded into it.
Right.
Because I thought
He's giving direction.
The lady had resigned. The matter should be allowed to die a bit, you know. So I would not have advised that kind of strategy. I have a few very worrying comments to make because she's a senior officer of the government, having been minister even in Kufuor's time. So when there's a theft in the minister's house, that's a serious matter. That should have been escalated to the level of the Minister of Interior and the National Security. And I think somehow there's been a failure of intelligence.
As to what kind of vetting was done on the individuals before they got
apart from that, even the handling of the case. I mean, if I was Minister of National Security, you know that when this blows up, can have negative connotations for the government, for the party, and for the lady herself. She's lost her job. I mean, with all her life, she's never had an issue, no problem. And then this one, in the highlights and the throes of her career to come and define her, it hurts me because I know her. You understand? And so I think that the downside has to be that kind of money should be kept in the house, especially by a public official. And I want to encourage everybody. You should keep your money in the bank. You should keep your money in the bank.
I see. Let's look at your 6-point agenda.
Yes.
And we'll start from point 1.
Oh, point 1 is something that I've been passionate about, downsizing government, because I think it's not the quantum of money that you save by downsizing to the 54 that I'm talking about. 19 cabinet and then only 1 deputy. 38 plus the 16 regional ministers, making it 54. For a country of 31 projected to be maybe 35 or 40 million in the next decade or two, I think we can run it efficiently, effectively with that number. It sends a strong signal that ministerial positions are not just job for boys. And governments after governments have been large, even during when I was serving my boss, President Kufuor, and I quite remember when he was isolating railways and aviation out of transport. As a civil engineer, I wasn't happy at all. I was looking at him in a very strange way, but of course, you have to take instructions from your boss. So I had to announce that. But I mean, if I have the opportunity to be president, transport will be transport. I mean, public infrastructure, public works, sanitation and all should be back in works and housing. I've just reconfigured it back to 19. And I think it's important to send a strong signal to the people of Ghana that when we are saying that they should go through an austere period, that austerity starts with government. When you cut back, people take you more serious, that you are cutting back. It's not the quantum of money you save by reducing it is significant though, but it's the moral message that you send to the rest of the country that you're on a war footing. And a country like Ghana right now where we are, we should roll our sleeves and be on a war footing and take the difficult decisions. And I've also talked about the Supreme Court. I don't know the number now. Some people are telling me 16 or so.
Yes,
I'm not sure
about in that region.
Yeah, I think we should put a cap of 9. And
9 Supreme Court judges.
Yes, and
19 ministers.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
How are you going to run the country with 19 ministers?
Who says 19 ministers?
Yes.
Who says you can't do that?
How are you going to do that?
I think you can do that. I think you can do that. It's more efficient. I think the president can then give them very deliverable milestones and monitor what they do, and you have a handle on it when it's a smaller team. And the ministerial position is an exalted one. It shouldn't be common, in my view. To be a minister in Ghana should be an exalted position. It shouldn't be very common.
I think that some people should not have been ministers.
Don't take me in that direction.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking. As my big brother, I like to ask you questions.
No. Don't take me in that direction. And again, the issue about value for money, which is my number 3 on my 6-point plan, cutting waste in the public sector. As I said, we've seen a lot of projects in Ghana that have been a drain. I mean, a typical one is Saglemi. Ghana paid for 5,000. Only 1,000 was delivered. Nobody's been asked any questions.
The matter is in court.
It's dragged on for far too long. We've had the airport, which everybody admires, which I travel through, which is quite nice, but not for close to $300 million. That could build you 3 new airports, So we have been over-invoicing ourselves as a country. And I quite remember when I was General Secretary, I had reason to write to was it the Minister of Transport or Minister of Aviation, when I was told that under the NDC, they had used $29 million to do an overlay of the Kumasi Airport runway. And I know that runway because as a young civil engineer, I worked on it with Limex Bow, doing the resealing, implementing a slurry seal in 1991. So I know it's about 1.9 kilometers. You cannot possibly have spent more than $9 million doing an asphalt overlay and then the lights. So it is something that has been happening in our country. I believe a lot of our debt is buried in graft, and we have to do something about it. It's something that we can reduce as a government. And I do believe as president, the tone that you set, the values that you espouse, it's got a snowball effect on your cabinet, on your party, and the rest of the country.
So, for example...
I think it's important that we have to be very tough and let people know that there's a big price to pay for tinkering with the public
We'll come
treasury.
to point 4, 5, and 6, but I got an interest in the Saglemi housing project. Yesterday, a new housing project affordable housing project was, I saw it was cut for it. And there's a national rental assistance program. Do you get a sense that the government is going about the reduction of accommodation crisis in the right way?
See, housing is the poor brother in Ghana. I mean, you never hear anybody talk about housing. We talk about roads, we talk about hospitals, but without a house, a roof over your head, you can't live. So I think we have virtually relegated housing to the background, which is something, as a civil engineer, I'll prioritize. Which brings me to number 5, urban regeneration and rural development, to regenerate the urban area.
What's the plan?
The plan is, sometimes I want to task my colleagues, civil engineers and architects, what kind of advice they are offering to their ministers. Because, for instance, citing Saglemi, where you cited it, is either you have a plan to build a big business there, so that the people, because if you're you're planning 5,000 houses, averaging 5 per household,
right,
that should give you about 25,000, many more. And all the enjoying economic activity, right, and amenities that it will spawn. So unless you have built a transit arrangement for people to commute between there and Accra, which is also a waste because you're spewing all the fumes into the atmosphere. So all these things have to be conceptualized properly, especially in light of climate change and sustainability. And so sometimes I want to task the technocrats more than even the politicians.
But is the politician going about the solution in the right way?
That's a question that you can ask confidently.
I just asked you.
Well, I think sometimes when I was executive director of the Ghana Institution of Engineering, I used to advise my colleagues that if you are there at the ministry, you offer your technical advice to the best of your ability, and it has to be documented. So sometimes we have to find out whether they really gave the advice and the minister overrode them. The minister has the political authority, no doubt. I mean, I would not put a new housing estate out of Accra that much because we know where the central business district is.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of space around Osu, around Dabraka, Newtown, Nima, that can be reconfigured and that can be vertically developed, and so we can have new.
But that was said. Mustafa Hamid said he was going to transform.
Why?
What do you call it?
I'm telling you what I intend to do.
I'm interested.
I'm not interested in what was said.
Why not interested?
Because it is not.
You're distancing yourself from the government. Is that what you're doing?
I'm not a part of the government, so you don't even have to make that statement. Am I a part of the government? No, Johnny, tell me. So why you say I'm distancing myself from the government? I'm not a part of the government. That is a fact. Let's speak the truth.
But your party,
it's a government that was birthed by my party.
Right.
So in the main, I support and I try to do what I can. But I'm not a part of the government.
But you remember that? You remember that? Sorry, sir. But you remember that as General Secretary, when Nana won his presidency or won the presidency, one of the key points was that it was party and government were going to work together, and that he was even going to institute a monthly visit to the party office. You remember that?
Yes, that's true.
And that was supposed to have that symbiotic relationship.
That is true. That is what was the plan.
But what happened along the line?
Well, I'm not the one to ask that question. So I think it's important that we place things in proper perspective.
Okay.
Every president in this Fourth Republic has recognized that the party gives birth to the presidency. And that's why they always have the chairman of the party and the general secretary, who are the two principal officers of every political party, sit in cabinet. Why? It's not in any law, in any constitution, but it's a convention they've all respected because they admit and recognize that the party has a role to play.
That's right.
But you can't force it on the president. It's the president's government. And I keep saying this. The Kufuor administration, the Mills administration, the Mahama administration, and the Kufuor administration. So let's be very clear. On this attempt to dump everything on the party, I think it's very unfair. We've had instances where members of parliament have requested something, over 90 of them, and it was not done.
The sack of Fufuriata.
Well, it was not done. So what is important is that we recognize where we apportion, if there is something to apportion. So
let's go to point 4. You jumped point 4 to point 5.
Yeah, point 4 is, I believe, in something that really has worried this country.
What is that?
The over-politicization of our public services. And I want to restore meritocracy and professionalism to the civil and public services. Today in Ghana, you go to every public institution, even in the military and the security service, you say this man is NDC, this man is NPP.
That's right.
It's bad. We've got to discourage that. And I also want to take a leaf from President Kufuor's book. Because when we came into office, Namfuri, may his soul rest in peace, I think he passed quite recently. Interesting character, you know. He had been BNI director at the time of the height of Rawlins's administration. A lot of us had suffered under his... but when he became president, we inherited him as IGP. President Kufuor allowed him to go to the end of his tenure. It was well over 6 months. It was interesting because I quite remember an interesting thing that happened was in 1999. And those, you may have been young that time. There was a scandal called the Albert Baffa tape.
Right.
Okay, that caused the dismissal of Mauku Zomelo from Joy FM.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was a publication in the Statesman, and the Statesman at the time was owned by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Right. Gabriel Tredako.
No, Gabriel was not in the country at the time.
Okay.
This is 1999.
He took over later.
Yes. And I had been his campaign manager, so very close. So I remember when that story broke, and the Namfuri said he wanted to see Nana. I went with him. And they kept us, moving us from police headquarters, BNI, you know where it is, 37, that corner, interrogation. They won't even give us food to eat. I quite remember around 2 o'clock, I had to drive to 37 to buy a can of Fanta and pie for Nana. You understand? And they left us off around maybe 7 or so minutes to midnight. I had to drive Nana home to East Legon. He used to stay in East Legon at the time. But when we got into government, this is how things can change. And that's why when I want people to understand that in politics, you are not there forever. And I quite remember walking into, at that time we were using the State House because the castle was under renovation. We were walking into a meeting. I think there was going to be a national security meeting. And I was walking with then Attorney General Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And then there comes Peter Namfuri, the man who detained us. And we're in government. And then I took a smile and laughed and said, "Hey, Namfuri, IGP." The coin has flipped. And then we all had a good laugh. You know, I'm just saying that it is important that we get professionals to do work. Whether you're an engineer at the ministry or the highways, because I was a young civil engineer. I was dreaming to become deputy chief executive at least, you know. And so therefore, when you have a situation where the presidents appoint people as the head, of course, according to Article 71, president has the authority to do so.
Right.
But sometimes they have to do it with a certain level of temerity because you go to a place like VRA or ECG or those technical organizations like GMPC, people have gone there, worked there, have the institutional memory, and then they bring in somebody from outside the country to become the head of the place. It demotivates the staff.
And then when power switches, everybody has to go and
you know, so those are things that we have to look at again as Ghanaians and get our technocrats to know that they are working for the states. And again, sometimes the technocrats too are to blame. Some of them become overly political because they are seeking a quick promotion. I know because I have some of my colleagues. I know what happens. So it's not right to blame only the politicians or the president. We, the Ghanaians, we have to change.
Yesterday I mentioned the middle class.
Yes.
I think that the middle class are also our problem.
Yes, we have to change.
Because they know what is right, but they will not do what is right.
A lot of them have become opportunists. You know, they because they just wait for political parties to win, and then they come onto you like leeches. Instead of, you know, during the campaign, identifying which ones are on the same wavelength with their dreams and aspirations and supporting them to become the president that they desire, they're not. They're going with the wind.
Are you facing that?
A bit of it.
Where you think that people who
everybody will call you and say,
in private and talk to you,
think
but
you are
then
giving the best. Oh, some have come and supported, but I can't give their names. And if I tell you where they are and where they work, you'll be surprised.
Right.
And they support, because I don't have all the resources that I'm burning right now.
Right.
But a lot of people are helping quietly, which I dearly appreciate. But I think people should be courageous. If it's your own money and want to support Kwabena Agyepong, come and support
maybe
me.
they're afraid that it will be victimized.
But that shouldn't happen. That's the new Ghana I'm talking about. We need to rebuild a country where we don't victimize people because of their choices. It's not good. Countries have not developed like that. You know, countries have never developed like that. So we can't do that.
Let's look at point 6, the final one.
So it's an interesting one. Of course, when I talk about entertainment and tourism and the creative arts, because I think it's a big, big winner, especially taking on board the teaming youth. When you go and see when they are recording a video, you see the amount of props, the hands, the people who are employed, the value chain. So, in fact, if we make sure, one, that our artists and those in that industry, the intellectual property, we train them well to own their own work and make as much money as possible from it, it has the opportunity and the potential to draw in a lot. And when there's one concert, look at the people who work on the concert.
Light, sound, stage,
sound engineers.
Back end.
You know, it's and if you build one hospitality institution right now, in today's world, I mean, the factories employ very little because of technology. But if you have a hotel chain, like when I heard there's going to be the Accra Marina, you know, I was so excited. I'm surprised and worried that it is not going as fast as I think, because you are employing barmen, cooks, technicians, everything, you know, chambermaids. You know, in a hotel, look at the amount of people. You can employ even 800 people, 1,000 people. Hands are needed. Maintenance workers and all that. These are middle-level maintenance workers. And that's what we need, especially as we are talking about TVET education. So I think, and then tourism. Tourism. I mean, 500 kilometers of coastline, lined with a lot of historic castles that have been allowed to rot. These are monuments that we should write the history about and have tour guides and create economic opportunities around them. I mean, the first castle, I'm told, was on 16-something, where the Portuguese also came here, the first, and then the Danish, and the Christianborg Castle, which is now the Osu Castle. I think that should be a historic relic. And in Ghana, we should be able to keep documents such that we'll know which seat Rawlings used to sit on, which seat Kufuor used to sit on, and all that.
Why haven't you given these ideas to the president? You've served as his campaign manager before. He's in power. If he's struggling,
even as close as 2020, you saw me on the campaign trail because he invited me.
Did you give him these ideas?
I haven't had a very long, decent opportunity to have a discussion, especially after the election, which is what I wanted.
Why is that?
I can't force myself. You know, we can't do that. But he cannot also say he called me and I refused to come. No.
Because he hasn't called you, but you are willing to have that conversation.
At the time, since you invited me to be part of the campaign, I was expecting as somebody, and I'm reasonably senior in this party, especially if we are talking about this party.
Agreed.
I may not be that old, but I was there right from day one. Okay, so you expect that. Now it's been a tight election. And again, the message that Ghanaians gave us, because look at the difference between 2016 and 2020. Just one electoral cycle. A majority of 63 seats in parliament disappears. A popular vote of 1 million goes down to 500. They were sending us a signal. I'm not entirely happy with how the first term was run. So that should be imbibed, and there should be a change in strategy, change in personnel, and other things. If I had had the opportunity at the time I would have said that. But do you
think that your party caught that signal that Ghanaians sent in the verdict of 2020
why are you
elections?
saying the party? Say, do you think that the president caught that signal?
The president. Let me ask you that.
Yes. I think. No, it's a fact. I mean, let's speak to facts. The party is not running the government. So it's unfair to be always saying party. It is the president who has to make the decision.
But we do know that when, for example, the members of parliament asked for Ofori-Atta and Charles Dubois in his head, it was the party's general secretary who wrote and called them into a conclave on behalf of the president where they met and they rescinded their decision.
I don't think that's the work of a general secretary.
Well, but he did it anyway.
I'm saying that should not be the work. You should be looking for the interest of the party. General secretaries are there because you are in touch with the 275 party chairmen. You should feel the pulse of the country. That's why you are in cabinet, so that you should look the president in the eye respectfully. And if you have to disagree or make suggestions, all to inure to the benefit of the party and the country. You understand? You cannot, for the life of me, become also someone who is doing the bidding of the president. Then you lose your position. Your mandate is to secure the party. You are with the party. That's why you are in cabinet. And so that when the government appears to be going off course, because you are with the people, you can consult them. They are in the bars, the markets, the lorry stations. They know what is happening. So a general secretary, a good party chairman should feel the pulse of the country and should transmit same to cabinet and to president so that certain decisions...
You don't feel that happening?
I don't think that has happened well enough in this administration.
This is your 6-point agenda. Where does it place you in the League of 10?
Oh, in the League of 10?
Yes.
Well, on the ball out, I'm 6.
Of course, 6 for 6. But you're trimming the number down to 5.
Interestingly, you said I was born on 6 March.
Right.
When I was launching my campaign, I delivered a 6-point plan.
Right.
And then somehow the Almighty God said I should pick number 6. So it's just coincidence, strange one. Anyway, but I think I have a very solid chance of winning. I'm someone who, I think out of the 10, is the only one who has contested at national level in the party and won general secretaryship, albeit on my hospital bed, delivered the victory in Tamale. So I'm deep-rooted in this party. And I think a lot of them recognize my long, dedicated service and sacrifice to this political tradition. And I'm quite confident that they view me as a bridge between the young and the old generation. Because those of us who were there at the beginning and learned a lot from the elders that we met, the likes of Dubois and B.J. Darocha, Stephen Kreku, J. Addison, Alhaji Bin Saleh and Moro Salifu. And those are people, Peter Alajete, Doi Sykes, we learned values from them because these are, in those days, we had been in opposition on the side burner for over 30 years. Yeah. But they were prepared to commit their last resources. And the young ones, like the members of the Young Executive Forum, who meet every week and make donations to support then General Secretary Agyei Boateng. These were the values of our party. And these are values that I want to imbibe in the oncoming generations. So these are very serious ones. And I think in this contest, I want us not to put too much emphasis on the superdelegates. That is only a tool to reduce the number to 5.
Would you make it into the superdelegates
I'm quite certain, without being arrogant about it, in politics and in elections, you can never tell till the votes are counted. But I'm confident I'll be in the top 5. Perhaps even do better than that.
I see. And the bigger picture, when all of this is done on the 4th of November?
First and foremost, then that becomes a new game. That's why I'm worried that people are placing so much emphasis on August 26th. That is only a sieving tool to get the 5 of us who go to the main event. And when that happens, it's a completely new ball game. The framers of the Constitution, I know, did not think that 900 people would take a decision for 200,000 plus. No. This is just a tool. So it doesn't matter what you get in this one. Once we go into the second stage, it's a different ball game because then you have to go to the ground, talk to the over 220,000 electors, and that's a completely new ball game.
There's been a perception that the presidency, or if you like, the president is sponsoring a candidate or supporting a candidate on the back end against all 9 of you. And that's been a concern. The president has responded and said that he has only 1 vote just like anybody else. So how could he have done that? And that everybody should feel free and go about their campaigns. Does that cement the issue?
Well, not exactly. You see, action speaks louder than words, in my view. And I think this situation has been created because of what was happening. A lot of, and I mentioned this some time ago, a lot of CEOs, which again, I think it goes against the grain of governance principles, because when you are a public officer, a director general of lotteries, or you're the managing director of state transport, or the CEO of Bui Power, I don't think it lies within you to go to the party headquarters and pick up a form for a candidate. It's wrong. You may support the person quietly. That is fine. I mean, everybody can support someone. That's fine. But when you become a managing director or CEO of Ghana Gas or GNPC,
Free Zones Authority,
you are not allowed to do that. State Housing Corporation, you are a public officer. You serve the whole of Ghana. You can't be actively involved in divisive politics, even at the internal elections level. And that is just simply the fact. And I was stating the fact. When I state the facts and people get uncomfortable with it, they think I'm attacking someone. I'm not. I think that if you want to support the person, like others are supporting me, they haven't come out openly, but they send me reasonable resources for me to be able to go around. You know, you don't know what offices they occupy in the government.
That's right.
Or wherever. You understand? So I think it is wrong. The optics is poor on governance for public officers, CEOs of organizations to relinquish their work and be roaming around campaigning with a candidate. And if that is wrong, we have to say it.
Okay.
That's the kind of culture we need to build. The new politician, the new Ghanaian. So once you see that, and these are all the president's appointees, then it begs the question. You understand? So it's not him just saying it. He should have authorized the chief of staff to call them to order.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you should do.
There's a message here from Agbesi Basel, one of our viewers on Facebook. It says, Johnny, I like this man, but I'm afraid he will come and behave like Nanado.
I think it's an unfortunate comment. You shouldn't be saying that. And I think it's important. Well, whatever happens, we have an election. We need to select someone as flag bearer. We need to vote for a president. And the fact that there have been disappointments in the past, or not everything that has been promised has been achieved, it's only normal. No president has been able to achieve all his targets. And I think, to be fair to Nanado, I mean, if you look at the road network, I don't think any government in the history of this, maybe this Fourth Republic, maybe more, has done as much work on the roads as he has done. My worry has to do with whether there's a strong maintenance program backing these initial investments and whether there was value for money on these projects. Not only there, you go to housing, hospital infrastructure. But again, I worry about the hospitals that are there already that have not been maintained, that are not being maintained and have not been maintained. And the TVET schools, I saw one school in Awaso.
Okay.
And you go and see the infrastructure, the design is so modernistic, and so there are a lot of good things that have happened. Okay, so they shouldn't create that kind of impression in the minds of people. So there are good things that have happened. Of course, there have been shortcomings, and we've fallen short on certain issues. So that's how life goes. But I want to assure the Ghanaian
that has eroded the goodwill that the Ghanaian people had in the NPP 2016 election, unprecedented results in the history of Ghana. 2020, as you mentioned, that was halved.
That is why
the goodwill keeps depleting.
That is why,
and that will be a tough job for you if you emerge flag bearer.
That is why they need someone like KAA, Kwabena Agyei Agyepong, because
to do what?
First and foremost, we Ghanaians, I don't think more of the same will work for the NPP. I mean, 16 years at the top. When President Akufo-Addo was elected in end of 2007, 2008, he appointed Dr. Bawumia as his vice. 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020. By 2024, that's a good 16 years of our life. That's close to a generation. So extending a part of that leadership for another 8 years is something that I don't find attractive. And since I've been around the party people, they want to see a clear departure. Something different. And that's why I'm talking about a new dawn, a new direction. We need new energy, a new team, freshness. That is how life is. Change is good. That's how life is. So I do believe it will enhance our chances. If someone like me, who has been tutored under all these leaders of our party and worked under President Kufuor and knows the party well, having served as General Secretary, albeit short-lived, I do believe I have the technical capacity, the skill set. I've been behind the console like yourself in those days, worked as a public servant, Ghana Highway Authority, worked as an independent private consultant, and I've even promoted boxers and musicians as well. So that's why I have this passion for the arts. And then the sports. I said we cannot be jack of all sports. And now I'm hearing people talking about American football and five-a-side.
Pillow fight.
You can't do that. Even the soccer that we are so good at, look at what has happened to our local league. We have to be deliberate about it to bring the passion back to the Ghanaian people. And the media has a major role to play. You are marketing international football to the detriment of our local league. And it pains me, it hurts my heart.
If you had a chance to sit before the president today to advise him on how to win back the people, their trust, their confidence, and their goodwill.
This is not something that you can say. This is not something you want to say publicly.
Give me top three. I mean, the last time you said that the fact that the president has not done a reshuffle is novel.
It's novel.
He has still not done a reshuffle.
Yes.
He's been asking people to tighten their belt and all of that. But if you had top three things to say, what would you say to him?
No, but Johnny, like I said to you, I've worked as press secretary to President Kufuor. The conversations you have with president, sometimes you die with it. The insights that you have.
Let me flip the coin. Let me flip the coin.
I don't think it is right for me
let me flip
to
the coin,
sit
my
out
senior
here
colleague.
publicly.
Let me flip the coin, my senior colleague. Let's put Kwabena Agyei Agyepong in the seat as president in 2025.
I've told you for starters, this is my 6-point plan. And I know elements of it will free up the resources that we need to build our country, to strengthen and empower the youth, through entrepreneurial education, technical education, and all these things. Once we can free ourselves from the clutches of debt, and that only starts when you tighten your own belt. And the Ghanaian people will rally behind you when they see you are leading by example. That's exactly what I want to do.
What is your opinion of what's happening at the Bank of Ghana? They declared a loss of 60
I think I spoke about that a long time.
I want to hear you.
No, I spoke about that.
My listeners want to hear you. They're on Facebook. They're asking me.
It's very tough.
So these questions are from them.
Ernest Addison is my classmate, very good friend. I was in 1A, he was in 1B, from 1 to upper 6. We were together last week. We buried one of our colleagues.
May he rest in peace.
But I've said, I think the president should have intervened a long time ago. Because, with the economy, there's something you can't put a finger on. They call it the intangibles. You understand? When business confidence or the community appears not... there was a time where about 41% of all securities were owned by foreigners. People had confidence enough to come and invest in our economy, long-term securities. And that drained quickly. I think it's now less than 11%, maybe even less.
Bonds and what?
Yeah, they came to pull it out. So these are things, when it happens, you move in and take drastic action. And it should be decisive. And there should be change of personnel.
Would that not be interfering in the independence of the Bank of Ghana?
The Bank of Ghana, that's why it's called the Bank of Ghana. The president is the president of Ghana. I mean, if your actions will help stabilize the economy, there's a way of going about it. So for me, it is the development of our country, the improvement of our economy, the lives and the welfare of the Ghanaian people. That is, for me, the priority.
Dr. Addison is your friend, but should he go? People are asking for his head.
That's what you are.
Should he go? It's not me.
No.
I'm not asking.
I said I've expressed my views on this matter over a year ago, and I don't want to go over it over it. I see if I have some personal issues with Kenneth Reata and Dr. Addison. No, I do not have that. And so I'm not going to repeat
Have you been happy with how the economy has been managed?
Are you?
No, I'm asking you. You want to be president.
Do you have money in the bank?
You want to be president.
I'm asking you.
No, I asked the question. You know the game.
All of us lost money. At the end of the day, I mean, if at the beginning of the year it was 6 cities and it's just spun out of control right through 17, and then now back down, so if you have money in the bank or investments, is dwindled. So none of us. I mean, with the economy, it doesn't discriminate between MPP or NDC or CPP. It affects everyone. And that's why all of us should be interested.
Have you been happy with the way it's been managed?
No.
The economy?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we should cut our coat according to our size. We should reduce government pecs. You know, I was press secretary. I never used a motorcade around Accra. I still lived in East Legon. I'll wake up early and get through the traffic. The chief of staff is still alive, Kujo Mpianim. He will sometimes, most of the time, drive quietly to the office. You will not even notice when he comes in. You understand? You can check up with him. And today, every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a motorcade. And they get into the traffic at 9, 10 o'clock and disturb the traffic. If you are a state official, you are resourced enough to wake up early to be able to get to work without disturbing the Ghanaian people. And these are the soft issues that damage chances of parties. To put it in tree, it's a Ghana from the hin and the Twaba. The hin and the Twaba. It's not bridges in any idea. We are there now in the hip. Then they vote against it.
Let me pick your thoughts on this one, because you are a planner, engineer, and all of that. You're interested in how we organize
the built environment. Right? The built environment.
There's a concern that was raised by MP for Tamale North, Honorable Alassane Suhuyini, about how the Lands Commission and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources had engaged the service of one Jato to reclaim land, 6,000 acres, and then he was giving 50 acres of those lands.
Is that a fact?
Well, that's
I don't like
a committee in Parliament.
I don't like commenting on things.
A committee in Parliament.
Unfortunately, Johnny, I haven't read that. I've been busy with my campaign. I don't like making comments on things I haven't seen. Okay. But suffice it to say, there's one thing that I should say that should touch our conscience.
We have to.
Last year somewhere, I think there was an attempt to go to Parliament and get a loan of 1.6. Is it billion or something to buy stake in Acre and something?
Right. Yes, Acre and Acre, yeah.
You remember that?
Right.
And it turned out a year or so after, they relinquished the whole interest in that block for nothing.
Yes. And a tussle between the GMPC board chairman and the energy minister.
And then that's some of these things worry me. I mean, we have signed a contract with them to give us their plan of development and giving them a time frame, and the time is about to elapse, and we Ghanaians rather saying we should go and borrow money and buy stake in something that if we waited a couple of months or a year, it will revert to us. That tells you something.
We have to go.
We have to go.
You have a popular song on your mind that you would want to? I know. William, hold on for me. A popular song so Abiam can look for it. You relax with.
Oh yes, I do. Daddy Lumba.
Like Daddy Lumba?
Can you find it somewhere?
Yeah.
That's right. That's what I've done. We are Nameko. I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
I've presented myself to the party people.
Have your people accepted you?
This is the vote will determine. It will tell. You can never tell. So again, what is important is I'm on this platform. We are having this difficult conversation, which I think Ghana should have. That's why I think there should have been a debate between the 10 of us. Hopefully, the 5 of us, we are getting there. We'll have.
You wanted a debate?
Of course, I have said it several times.
But who?
Ghanaians deserve to know what is on our minds. We can't start following people because what are the reasons why they are following their various candidates? They should tell us, because I haven't heard clearly from some what their plans are. I've given you my 6-point
Alan has
plan.
GTP.
That's right. I said from some.
Right.
From some. So I have my 6-point plan. So
would you rather after the 5 you would have a debate among the 5?
I think that is a smaller group. So I think it is very important.
We'll make it possible.
Ghanaians should know our policy platforms, our priorities, our policy differences. That's how we can make an informed choice. We don't have to have this crowd mentality and just choboy. No, it doesn't help.
It will make it possible.
Leadership is serious. We need character, values, principles, and that's what we need. So I want to encourage the delegates to vote character, principles, virtues, people who are soaked deep in that. And they shouldn't be worried that I'm a bit of a stickler for discipline. But I'm also flexible. But discipline is important in our country.
engineer.
Before you go, I just wanted you to just touch on free SHS because it's such a key point for me because of the plan you have, which you sit on education.
I'm even more worried about basic education because nobody wants to talk about it. Yes, I for the life of me, I've never believed in the JSS and SSS. I left home at the age of 12 to go to advancement from 1. That's where your character is formed. In those days of the O levels and the sixth form, you go and meet your seniors who are 19, 20, big boys, and they will discipline you. They will show you how to lay a bed. They will let you clean a toilet. They will let you weed. And on Saturdays in Kwabena, they will let you open your trunk to see that everything is
properly laid out.
Laid out. They will check your fingernails. And woe betide you if you lose the house a point. And then means you can't go to town. And for those of us who are coming from the hinterland, we wanted to go and have a little breeze at the castle. So, you don't want to suffer that. And it made you a more rounded human being when you finished from 5. In those days, you finished O levels, you could go into the army, you could go into the police. Right now, we are keeping our kids at home till about 15.
Yes.
And if their father has a bit of money and things, they won't do any work at home. They don't know how to lay their bed. So you go to kids' rooms now, it's a horrible mess.
It's a mess. So we should go back to the old...
If I would work with the stakeholders to discuss going back to the old thing. Because in those days, when you do O levels, but now when somebody finishes
longer.
Yes, it's 7 years.
Yes.
So even school sports, which is something I didn't talk about, which I'm very passionate about, which becomes an assembly line of talent for the Ghanaian.
I'm sure our next conversation should be about just sports and education.
Education.
Yes.
Only
the two areas.
When I went to Form 1, there were people who came from Esiakwa LA. And they came to advancement. They were brilliant too. You see, so all these basic schools that have collapsed, you look at them and and then the teachers, and we all know what happened recently. I don't want to touch it. So placing emphasis on quality teaching, quality teacher training, so that we can have a core of good teachers. That is very important.
Why are you beginning your tour in Accra this morning? Today, you're in Accra.
It's less expensive.
But where are you beginning?
I'm just going to meet the
delegates.
The 34 constituency chairman.
Okay.
The 17 regional executives.
Right.
The 6 or so regional reps to the National Council.
Right.
Then the surviving members of the founders who signed our initial registration, those who did it in Accra, I think there are about 4 or so.
Okay.
So it's not a very large body.
Right.
Should be less than 100.
Okay.
And so I have an interaction with them.
One-on-one
conversation with them, and they can ask me the questions. And I hope I can win a few hearts and souls and minds so that when it gets to the day, they will not forget KAA.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you,
Johnny. It's such a pleasure talking to you.
3FM Sunrise. 3FM Sunrise.